Hello, YouTube. This is Thomas Judge back once again with another episode of my ongoing weekly series, Valiant till the Last, which remains consistently unpopular, yet nonetheless remains a good way for me to keep the channel ticking over in between more substantive and specific video series that I release. So, today we're going to be looking at something which isn't a deluxe hardcover. This entire series was designed specifically to go through deluxe hardcovers, but I'm not doing that because the current series I'm looking at is a sequel to the deluxe hardcover I looked at last week, which is Quantum and Woody 2. And this has not been collected as a deluxe edition. So we're just going to have a look at the single issues. This is Quantum and Woody, technically Volume 3, that's volume with a big V. It started in 2017, it finished being published in 2018. It's a 12-issue series. Let's just dive into it. I mean, you can see the covers here. So first things first, this is written by a different dude than wrote the previous ones. The previous ones was written by, I forget his name. His last name was Asmus anyway. But this is written by Daniel Kibblesmith. Now, you can tell it's different because it's not as funny, it's not as quirky. Whereas the previous writer did have a fair amount of kind of like good comedic timing and it actually worked really well. There were some laugh out loud moments. This series does not have that. So let's have a look at it though. Is the series good or bad? It's pretty decent. It really is very much a series of two halves. The first half is the first 5 issues, which comprises a trade paperback called Kiss Kiss Clang Clang. And that's very much kind of Quantum and Woody by the numbers. World's worst superhero team, a lot of beef and bickering, decent art, decent writing to be fair, but it's just yet another supervillain and them dealing with or foiling yet another supervillain. It's okay. It's very competent and passable, but that's just a standard first story arc. That's the first 5 issues. At that point, we then jump into the subsequent 7 issues, so issues 6 to 12. And this is a decided shift in tone and substantially better. Now, issue 6 is kind of a standalone issue, which takes place at the exact same time as Harbinger Wars 2. And whilst it's not essential to read Harbinger Wars 2 to understand issue 6 of this series, knowing what happens in Harbinger Wars 2 will definitely provide you some very important context as to what's happening here. Anyway, it's a really good, very grounded, very well written issue, and it leads seamlessly into the next arc, which is a sort of a 6 issue arc that takes it to the end of the series. Now, that arc is about what happens if Quantum and Woody don't get a chance to clang their bracelets together within a 24-hour period. Now, we always thought that would lead to them dying. As it turns out, it doesn't. It actually leads to something a fair bit worse than that. I'm not going to go into sort of spoilers or anything, as I often don't. But what I will say is that final kind of 6 issue arc of what happens when they haven't managed to clang their bracelets together is really interesting, really well written. It dovetails in with the rest of the Valiant universe very smoothly. It has Gate, it has Lady Colonel, or Colonel Capshaw rather, and it has Exo Manowar. And all that is drawn well, written well, characterized well, even has a nodding glance towards conversations about things like divine alien species and things like that. It's good. And not only is it good, it also manages to somehow maintain the tension that was created by this whole having to have the bracelets, having to clang thing. You see, throughout Quantum and Woody, ever since the 2012 reboot of them, the whole point has been they have to be around each other so that even though they kind of bicker like brothers who don't get on, they have to be able to clang their bracelets or else they die. So what we have here is, oh, well, actually, they haven't clanged their bracelets, but they haven't died. But when you understand the wider context of what the implications of that is and what it then leads to, is that, well, actually, it maintains the pressure on a requisite for them to be around each other and still clang their bracelets together, because now we know the consequences of what happens if they don't, and the consequences are actually substantially worse than just these two individuals dying. They're much wider consequences. So it's really interesting that it plays with that, it explains that and actually explores that without removing the underlying narrative tension required by this kind of arbitrary 24-hour time limit. And in fact, it expands on the scope of that and deals with it really well. I know it sounds a little bit technical. I don't mean to get literary on you, but essentially, long story short, this secondary part of this series of 12 issues, really good, really strong, it ends really well. I very much enjoyed it. So how is this collected? It's collected in two trade paperbacks. The first one is the first 5 issues, as I said, Kiss Kiss Clang Clang, and the second trade paperback is the following 7 issues, so issue 6 to issue 12, and that's called Separation Anxiety. If you are looking for this, please remember that it's not just called Quantum and Woody, it's called Quantum and Woody with an exclamation mark. Um, just something to be aware of when you're looking for it in a shop, I suppose. Like I said, this is the 2017-2018 series. Something that I wasn't aware of, or rather I didn't understand, is that there is another one-off special standalone issue as part of the series, which is set before Quantum and Woody issue 1. Is actually called Quantum and Woody issue 0.0001% or something like that. Anyway, I've got a picture of it here, but long story short, this is literally just a special issue, um, as a promotional issue. It has nothing to do with the storyline, and as you can see here from the internal artwork, it's kind of more like a web comic than anything else, and it's more a web comic just promoting it than it is anything else. So to be honest, I would not worry a huge amount about this. This is very much kind of something, if you read it, if you can track it down, great, but if you don't, honestly don't worry about it. It's actually not part of the series, and the series is just the 12 issues, and that's the way I would look at it if you were going to read this and collect this in any way. 2 trade paperbacks or 12 issues. Don't worry about this bonus issue 0.0001.5 or whatever it's called. Okay, well, with that said, I guess that takes us to the end of that particular series of Quantum and Woody. We haven't as yet exhausted Quantum and Woody though, because there has recently been a short Quantum and Woody mini-series that came out, I think, last year, possibly the year before. So that's going to be our homework for next time. Uh, Please comment down below. Let me know what you think if you have been following Quantum and Woody, and I'll catch you then. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.